Hello, welcome back to Ride Rescue and the Camaro project. In this episode, I'm going to tear out the dash. I need to take everything out of the dash. There's a bunch of things that are broken, so I need to get everything out of the way and then dig inside to figure out what needs to be replaced, what can be repaired, and then restore it all, make it all pretty and shiny again. In order to get the dash off, there are screws in both of these openings on this rib. While I have the dash all apart, fixing the dash pad and repairing the switches, I want to take this off, and I want to take off the dash area itself, all the plastic. It has a silver trim line all the way around the edges of all of these pieces, as well as the edges of these vents are chrome, and it's scuffed, it's scratched off. It really just doesn't look good, as well as I want to be able to replace these. He did have new ones, believe it or not, that I gave him 30 years ago. Never did get put on. So I'll go ahead and do that now. I'm going to take all of this off, and then I'll move to this side. So I'll get the steering wheel off and out of the way. I want to repaint the steering shaft itself. There's a flasher switch that is in on the side of it to turn on the flashers. That's missing. Where the keys have been banging up against the column, it's all chipped up, so I want to repaint that column area too. So I'm going to just literally gut it, take everything off, detail it, clean it all up. I might have to paint. Looks like the paint's in good shape, but I'll get the lighting in here and really scrutinize it and see if it needs to be painted too. But with the lighting that's in here right now, it looks really good. So hopefully I don't have to paint it, but I definitely want to paint the steering column. The plastic is held on by the Camaro emblem. And I think I have the wrong size, yeah. I need a 5/16 to take that off, and then I think it's a 3/8 to take off the pull handle. There's a little metal bracket on the back side too. This is kind of a fragile piece. You definitely want to take care in getting it off. There is one more. If you can see it all along that edge, it's all scratched up. There's a plastic flange that sticks out right here, and there's a little metal slot in the dash. So it goes up in and drops down onto that dash flange and then bolts in right here. This wasn't glued or clamped, it's just got just enough pressure with that bellows to push out on it, just like that is. So now, just take off these 4 screws on the back. This comes apart, and then I can replace that vent. I'll have a nice, shiny new chrome vent in there. I'll put that back together as well. Come along. Heater switches are going to be much easier to work with by getting this whole dash out of the way. Probably have to drop the steering column down. There's 2 bolts underneath. There's trim that goes underneath. That trim is all loose. So I will jump on over to that side now, and I'll tear all this off. So after doing a little more research, the horn button was just exactly the way I remembered it. But I didn't want to take the chance on breaking it. It just has some metal fingers that hook around the back side of the horn button, so it should be just a matter of popping that off. I really didn't want to pry on it, worrying about breaking it. There you go. So it has a metal flange as well as fingers, metal fingers, so there's no plastic or anything that can be broken. I was really worried about breaking something. The horn button itself is on with 3 screws. I've seen guys take the bolt off and pull the wheel. It works, but this wheel can come off all of a sudden pretty violent. You can hit yourself in the face. If you do want to try to muscle it off, if you back the nut off right to the end of the threads, when it does come off, that nut is going to catch it. Don't back it off and then pound on that. You run a really high risk of damaging the threads. But I prefer using a puller. There are 2 tapped threaded holes where you can mount a bracket to it and pull it that way. And that's the way I'll take it off. I do want to paint this hub, so I'm going to take the wheel off from the hub. I also want to make a note of the position. The steering wheel was straight the way I had it, so I want to make sure to get it back in that exact same spot. So I'll take note of, there's a little line on the shaft and it is straight up. So I'll want to make sure that gets back as straight up, and then I can set that wheel hub to that mark. Wow, that was loose. You can see that's where the button is missing from the flasher. So I will drop this column down. I think there's 2 bolts down here. I'll drop it down on the way so I can get the whole gauge cluster out. Notice this piece underneath the steering wheel is really loose. I'm worried that it might be broken. Yeah, it is. The screws and the brackets are still there, which means this whole piece is broken. I'm hoping I don't run into a whole lot more broken areas of this, because I do not want to have to replace this piece. Luckily they are replaceable, but I really want to avoid that. So hopefully I can fix these 2 tabs. Maybe I can build some with epoxy or with some fiberglass. Yeah, that was disappointing. So for all the rest of these screws and brackets, I'm going to use a regular hand tool rather than a power tool. I want to be able to be real delicate in removing all these. These are getting pretty fragile with age. These just fold forward and then come out gently. There's a screw on the outside edge. These wood grain pieces on the radio are held on by the nuts that actually hold the radio in place. This one is coming apart. It's glued onto this little bracket, so I'll have to make note of gluing that back on. It's in good shape. It's pretty dirty. The lens needs to be buffed. I'll polish that up before I put it back in. That nut was loose. I'll use it as a guide. The speedometer cable will have to come out of the back, and then it's just a matter of unplugging all the different items and then just really taking a note over what plug come out of what hole, so you can get all of the idiot lights and all the dash lights back in place where they belong. The speedometer cable on these has a little flap. You just pull that flap in and it releases the cable. I have to drop that column down. Well, it doesn't take much to get that down out of the way, I hope. This one just does not want to come out. I'm afraid I'm going to break it. I'm really worried I'm going to break something here. It does have a metal plate that it clips into, and luckily that metal plate is screwed onto the plastic. I'm hoping if I take that plate off, that light will stay in that plate and I won't have to risk breaking it. Well, it will come out if it goes back far enough. So once I get the dash out, it should fold out. I'm getting close. There we go. So light switch is a tough one, especially in the Rally Sport. There are so many hoses and wires that go to that switch. There's a release where you can release the knob and then twist the retaining screw off. I'm trying to reach that knob. Once I get that, I can push it in and just leave the whole light switch in the dash. There we go. So once you find that little pin, you can push it in and it'll release the knob. And now I'll be able to back this whole switch out and leave the switch inside with all the wiring and hoses connected. It feels like the wiper washer switch plate is broken, so that's another thing I'm going to have to fix. The light cluster on both for the signal and the flashers and any idiot lights, the wires are holding that in, and I don't remember exactly how they're attached. Okay, they have little fingers that are hooked on. Yeah, I was right. Switch for the wipers is completely broken off. I just fell out as soon as I moved it. The back side is, all the mounting points are completely gone. Just really disappointing. I'm hoping I can fix that. I hate to replace this whole dash. The owner said that the power top switch, when the power top was working unusual, abnormal, that the light switch or the power switch got stuck and it started smoking. He was really close to burning this car to the ground. Where that switch for the power top mounts, it is all melted. Yeah, it got really hot. With these two switches being broken off, I wanted to be able to take this whole thing out so I could repair it. If it's not repairable, then I need to be able to replace it. So that was a lot of work just to get to this thing. Now I need to get the cables off. There's 3 cables and the 1 plug. These cables are really difficult to get off. They have a little keeper that has gripper fingers on it, and you just about have to destroy them to get them off. When it comes to getting the cables back in the right spot, they are different lengths, but you do want to really take note and maybe even mark each one so that you can get them back in the right spot. But I don't know if you can really see that keeper, but that one was almost off. Luckily, came off very easily. You can see the little spring-loaded clip. One cable down. Cool, another one just fell off. Okay, I want to keep track of which one is which, so I got this cable up here. So once I get everything out of the way, I can mark it. I'm going to put this one down on the bottom. Now the last one is a real bear. Of course, it's the hardest one to get to, and it's the one that's actually on correctly. That one is going to be very difficult to get off. Wow. It went flying, but luckily it didn't go very far, just in case I need it. Okay. All that work just for this. It's not perfect. It's definitely restorable. It's got some pretty deep scratches in it. But we'll first try by getting these mechanism pieces out of the way, the ones that are actually broken off. I'm not sure how they come off. It looks like it's riveted on, so we'll see. But we will figure this out together. Maybe I'll be buying a whole new part. I'm hoping to avoid it. This is $350. That's a pretty expensive piece. So I want to mark these cables. So I've got L for left, C for center, and R for right. So thank you for watching this episode of the Camaro Build. I appreciate you tuning in. If you like what I'm doing, give me a like. I appreciate it. Get the word out to others. Share if you think they'll like it. If you haven't subscribed already, I appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. Tune in for what's coming up next. In the next episode of this car, I will be finishing tearing out the rest of the interior, and then we'll start working on the top and restoring and putting everything all back together. So thanks again for watching. Goodbye for now.